Reverend Kennedy is asking for the Zoom link number.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another National Action Network Youth Huddles virtual gathering, where we concluded our COVID-19 pandemic series on last week. And this week, we are kicking off our Operation Save Ourselves series. And we welcome you tonight to join. Thank you for joining us on various platforms across social media, on Zoom and on Facebook Live, as we are convening the Dreamers of Today, discussing solutions to issues that are relevant and important to us. And so we have on tonight, we are discussing in the midst of all that's going on, we know that, of course, we want to, of course, hope that you and your families are safe out there, and that you're still taking your safety precautions as we are still in a pandemic dealing with COVID-19 and the coronavirus. So prayers go out to any of those who are out there who are dealing with the virus or who has been affected in any way. And of course, we also want to always give it up to our essential workers who are on the front lines every day, fighting to make a difference, fighting to keep us strong and healthy as we are dealing with this crisis in the world. And tonight, we are talking as we have been rallying and demonstrating and really hitting the pavement all across the country, screaming, chanting, and really believing that now more than ever, Black lives matter. And on tonight in particular, we want to talk about not only the fact that Black lives matter, but that all Black lives matter. And when we say Black lives matter, we want to ensure that we mean all Black lives matter. And so today, as we are celebrating and we are honoring, this is Pride Month, as we say, yes. And so we want to definitely honor our LGBTQ Pride, no hate. And this is the segment in the series tonight, kicking off our Operation Save Ourselves series. And we'll be joined tonight by the chairperson of the LGBTQ Committee of National Action Network's New York City chapter, Cole Knapper, will be moderating tonight's discussion. And Cole has a dynamic panel for everyone to discuss various issues and various things in our history and in the moment of our movement today as we're dealing and as we are celebrating Pride Month. And she will also be joined by our president and vice president of National Action Network's Youth Huddle, Malaysia Freeman, and Pinnacle Garcia, whom also will be moderating tonight's discussion. And without further ado, to kick us off for tonight's session and dynamic discussion, please welcome one of the New York City liaisons to the president, Minister Stephen Marshall.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? All right, good. Greetings, everybody. Obviously, we bring you greetings from the National Action Network. Let's have a quick word of prayer. And Father, we thank you tonight. Thank you for everything you've done for us. Thank you for seeing everybody to be safe. Father, thank you for now for this discussion. Lord, we ask you to give us divine strategy, give us the wisdom to say what needs to be said. And Father, not only have a conversation, but have a real clear understanding on what we need to do next for our people. It is in your name we pray, amen. So real quick, I just have two quick announcements. July 12th, can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, yeah, my phone is bugging. But July 12th, we will be in the borough of Brooklyn, or the Republic of Brooklyn, like we call it when you're from Brooklyn. We will organize and really organize around gun violence, organize around police brutality and accountability, but it's something different. And this is the forum in which we've afforded our children to really lead it. The theme of the march is called Let Freedom Ring. We will take off at the historic St. Mark Church, which is located at 1980 Fulton Street. It's in the borough of Brooklyn between Howard and Ralph Avenues. We will march to from St. Mark Church to Restoration Plaza, where we have a rally, several speakers, youth-led, and we're so happy that the NAN Youth Huddle is a sole partner with Freedom Church to make sure that this event happens and happens at the capacity in which we want to see it. Again, it'll be youth-led. We'll have elected officials such as our Brooklyn Borough President come in to just give some sort of marching orders, encouragement to the children. But it is the time that the children step up. I said on a call a couple weeks ago that I think it's irresponsible for us to say the children are our future when our children are leading now. And so again, all roads lead to Brooklyn, July 12th. It's a Sunday, 1 p.m. We will march from the historic St. Mark Church, 1980 Fulton Street to Restoration Plaza, which is on Fulton and Marcy. You need to be there. This is just a start to organize our children and our adults and our community leaders for August 28th. And so August 28th, as you may know, is the 57th year anniversary of the March on Washington, where we all remember Dr. King had this great speech, I have a dream. But as Reverend Sharpner would say, demonstration without legislation is nothing. And so we know out of that march, out of those speeches that Dr. King gave, we got the Voting Rights Act, we got the Civil Rights Act, and so many other acts and really, luxuries that we are afforded to today that some of us take for granted. Voting is a major piece. Without that march 57 years ago, we wouldn't be talking about voter suppression and anything else. And so all roads lead to Washington, D.C. You can get more information at www.nationalactionnetwork.net or call 877-626-4651 to sign up, get on the bus, organize a bus, see where buses are in your neighborhood, your community, your state, your city. And we want to bring hundreds of thousands to make sure we not only reclaim the dream, but we secure the dream for those who are coming behind us. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Marshall. And again, like he said, I mean, the time is now. We want to make sure that everyone gets registered to join us in Washington, D.C. on August 28th. What? Oh, sorry, I was talking and was muted. But like I said, like Minister Marshall said, we all want to make sure that everyone who wants to join us in Washington, D.C., make sure that you register, go onto our website, www.nationalactionnetwork.net to join us in Washington, D.C. Thank you again, Minister Stephen Marshall, and certainly keep up the great work. I want to turn it over now to Malaysia Freeman, President of National Action Network's Youth Huddle, and Pinnacle Garcia, Vice President of NAN's Youth Huddle, to kick off tonight's discussion with Knapper, the LGBTQ Committee Chairperson. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Please unmute yourselves. Good evening.
Please unmute yourselves.
There you go.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Good evening.
So, Cole, why don't you start us off and tell us why we're here, what are we celebrating, and what are we doing tonight, and how can everyone, of course, as always, if anyone wants to join in on the discussion, please write your comments and your questions in the chat. Cole Knapper, please take it away. Tell us why we're here, bring on our guests, and take it away.
Awesome. So first of all, thank you so much, everyone, for attending this special 2020 Gay or LGBTQ Pride edition of the NAN Youth Huddle. Thank you, Ashley and Dominique, for inviting members of the LGBTQ committee to come in and celebrate. And then we have just a great group of speakers for you guys tonight, guys and gals, some amazing and diverse speakers. I won't take up very much time, but I will say just a couple of things. But before I do, Pinnacle and Malaysia, we really want this to be a youth-driven, youth-led conversation. So please feel free to hop in and ask questions as we go along. We just want to make it a real conversation. And so I know that we have several questions that have been posed to the panelists. And so what I'd like to do first is just start off by talking a little bit about Pride, and then I'll turn it over to our first guest speaker, who is not really a guest, but she is a distinguished guest for tonight. So every year during the month of June, the LGBTQ community celebrates Pride, and we do it in a lot of different ways. Across the globe, we have a bunch of different types of events that are held during this special month, and it's a way of recognizing the influence that LGBTQ people have had around the world. So tonight, what we're going to do is we're just going to go down to the basics, and whatever questions we have about the LGBTQ movement and how the LGBTQ movement and the Black Lives Matter movement, how those two movements interact, is one of the discussions that I'm hoping that we can have tonight. We're going to talk about everything and just really cover the basics so that we can make sure that as National Action Network organizers, we understand our history. So if we don't know our history, then it makes it really, really hard to understand and put things that are happening today in context. So we're going to talk about the reason why the month of June is the month that we celebrate Pride, and we're going to talk about the LGBT and Q. So that stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. Being a month-long celebration, Pride Month is also an opportunity to peacefully protest and to raise political awareness of our current issues. So what we have at National Action Network is a true legend. We have Mother Reverend Crone Goddess Kennedy, who is, in addition to being one of the members who was around and helped start National Action Network with Reverend Sharpton some almost 30 years ago, Reverend Kennedy is also what we call a Stonewall veteran. And she's going to talk to you about Stonewall, and she's going to talk to you about Pride in general, but I just want to set it up a little bit. The Stonewall Inn is the name of a gay club right in the heart of New York City. And the events that happened some 51 years ago this weekend is why we celebrate Pride all around the world. So Reverend Kennedy was one of the people who was there that night during the Stonewall, or that weekend during the Stonewall Riots. And those riots are about police brutality. Those riots are about uprisings of people who are saying that it is no longer good for this country to treat us in this way. And so a lot of the same history that a lot of the same events that we're seeing right now play out in this country mirror the things that have happened, and we have that history right here. We have living history. So without saying anything more, I don't want to steal her thunder. I present to you Mother Reverend Crone Goddess Kennedy. Reverend Kennedy.
Oh, Lafayette people, how's everyone doing tonight? Okay, let's get this party started. I'm a party gal. The history of Stonewall really started, actually, I guess, before Stonewall. Cole asked me to talk about things that led up to the events of the history of Stonewall. Now, prior to Stonewall, what would happen is the cops in Greenwich Village would randomly seek out a bar to go and raid. And when they would go and raid these bars, they would always put up a sign, "This is a raided establishment." And they would take along the women who they didn't even honor to call police officers, call them police matrons, to as they arrested people. And if the guys that were dressed in drag did not have on 2 pieces of male clothing, that would be a t-shirt, boxer short, underwear, whatever, and the women were searching the drag kings who had on suits, ties, and male attire, and if they didn't have on bra and panties, they arrested and they were going to jail. Well, to tell the truth, they run shipshod, you know, over the whole gay community, the bar scene, and they were just having a field day until this night. What had happened leading up to the outbreak, I call it the outbreak and I call it an uprising, because it definitely was not a riot. A riot is what you saw when people were looting and turning over cars and all stuff like that. That's another story. But anyway, this night, this day, what had happened, everybody dressed in their finery to go uptown for Judy Garland's wake. And when they got uptown, they found out like the lines were stretched like around the corner and whatnot. And all of a sudden, a thunderstorm broke out. It rained down on everybody's finery. And so they all, like, I guess, retreated back to the Stonewall Inn. In that evening, that was one of the times when the police decided to pull one of their famous raids. And this time the children said, enough is enough. We ain't taking it no more. So the cops were on the inside. And there used to be a football player that would come in from California and be in Stonewall, you know, or the Village for the whole weekend. And he had managed to get out. And at that time, Marsha P. Johnson snatched the, this is a rated premises sign. And when he got out, he took a parking meter, which is why there's no parking meters on the street on Christopher Street today. But he took a parking meter up out the ground and put it across the door so the cops inside could not get out. In those days, all they had was walkie-talkies. So by the time they called for backup, the word had gone around to the different bars and people were emptying into the streets anyway. When the cops arrived, they decided on this time to really grab the first person they could grab, which happened to be Stormy DeLarvelet. And the cop slapped her, she slapped the cop back. And that was it. And then by this time, there was uprising. They were fighting with the police, and everybody had like taken to the streets. This was on Friday night. By Saturday, it was full scale, day and evening. I got there Saturday night. Prior to that, Stormy, when they said Stormy on Saturday, Stormy had on an army helmet and she was battling with the police and they were helping, you know, people in the streets were helping her. And she was also instrumental in Sylvia Rivera, who happened to arrive late. And when Sylvia revived, you know, the cops were cursing and swearing at everybody. I got there and the cop chased Sylvia Rivera and me up Christopher Street. Now, Christopher Street, we saw the sign that said Gay Street. And so then Sylvia kicked off her heels and said, come on, let's run. And we ran into Gay Street, but we didn't know it was a cul-de-sac. In the meantime, this cop that was chasing us happened to see me because I was in my black suit and I had my collar on because I was a minister then. And he looked up and said, oh, here's this faggot imitating a priest. And he went to go for his gun. When he went to go for his gun, at that time, they didn't lock down the trash cans. So I grabbed 2 trash can covers, was able to clam him upside the head, and me and Sylvia got away out of Gay Street back into Christopher Street. We were in the streets from that Saturday until that Monday.
That is powerful. That is powerful. So do you imagine that it's anything like what we're experiencing right now? Yes,
because police brutality is police brutality. 51 years ago, police brutality. Today, police brutality. And my whole thing is don't defund the police, defund the police unions that help these rogue cops get away with murder.
Wow. Agreed. Thank you for that, Reverend Kennedy. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have any questions for Reverend Kennedy? Yes, Sister Word. You can unmute. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
You unmute, Reverend Word?
Yes, you're muted.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes, I'm glad to see y'all. God bless y'all.
Thank
So,
you.
Reverend
Thank you,
Kennedy, I have a
likewise.
question. The incident you just described, what happened afterwards? What happened after that? Were people still going to that Stonewall?
Yeah, the people were out in the streets from Friday until that Monday. So it went on day and night, that whole weekend.
But what happened to the place of business after that?
The Stonewall Inn? Well, the Stonewall emptied
Yes.
out. I mean, it was there and everybody had came out. The Stonewall and was in the streets. Nothing happened to Stonewall except that they, it was no longer a rated premises and everybody by this time was in the streets and they sort of like, I guess would say, was protecting the Stonewall Inn. Because the cops finally got out. And like I said, they only had walkie-talkies in those days. So by the time they called for backup, everybody was in the streets.
Just to be clear, the Stonewall Riots happened in 1969.
Stonewall uprising, it was not a riot. I keep saying this all the time. It was not a riot. Nobody was turning over cars and looting and raiding. They were fighting with the police. That's what it was, back and forth, police. And people from the bar scene and from all the village scene.
Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate the correction. As we work to try and make sure that our history is written well and written correctly, those are important points. So thank you very much. And thank you.
A book will be coming out called, I wrote a book called Shades of Stonewall, and I'm putting finishing touches on it. It was supposed to have been out last year for the 50th celebration, but, and all the things it's doing, honey, I'm 81 years old, it's like, I try to do too many things for my age, but I keep going anyway. But the book will be out by Stonewall 52, for sure.
We are blessed and pleased to have you. Thank you so much, Reverend Kennedy.
You're so welcome.
Reverend Word, you asked also about what happened to the Stonewall Inn. In 2012, somebody in the community, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was in 2012, the Stonewall Inn in Chelsea, New York, which is still there, was made into a landmark, an official landmark. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, in fact, had to keep Reverend Kennedy from heading down there yesterday. So
right.
Yeah. Okay. So we were gonna go into our next speaker, who's Daniel Williams. Daniel, are you with us?
You signed on.
Hey, I'm here.
Hi.
How y'all doing, NAN family?
Hi, Daniel.
Hey.
Hi.
I'm a little embarrassed to pull up my picture right now because I'm in the car and my face might be a little greasy because I was eating some food. But I'm here.
Well,
come as you are.
gotta have substance.
We're happy to have you and your voice. Thanks.
Thank you.
You want to go ahead and get started? I'm just going to mute myself.
Sure. I'm just excited to be on the call with Nan and celebrating basically Pride, because I know usually we're out there in the streets for the parade and we've had a great experience between us and also with the young adults because they have a great time out there. And for some of our young adults, it's a different experience than maybe like Prides have been in the past because they can really get out there and have fun and like see all the love and the connection and the bond that people have in the community. There's oftentimes a lot of different kind of people out there, and there's no one kind of people out there. So when we get out there and go out there Pride, it's definitely a spiritual, enlightening, wonderful like celebration experience. So I'm happy to be on the call right now. I'm not sure if you wanted me to go into a deep speech, but I'm open to answer questions and talk about my experience.
I have a question.
Cool.
In what way does the LGBTQ community help to impact you, and how does it help to drive you into your actions?
I feel like that. That's a good question, brother. I definitely said some of the things I had to say. I think it's a great deal because I'm actually in a car right now, hanging out with my dad, and I feel like you know, if we didn't have like mentors, leaders in the community that were like elders who lead the way for different generations as they come behind them, you know, I wouldn't be able to see myself as in a positive light. I wouldn't be able to be comfortable in my skin to be who I am, and I wouldn't be able to even be at some of the like, you know, levels of activism and things that I've done in the community, because that takes a lot of like courage that comes from deep within inside to be yourself, to be your whole truth, and to be authentic. And I was just thinking that earlier. I think I seen this in a quote and the documentary on Netflix called Disclosure. People can't be them. People can't be what they can't see. And so it's
Wow.
really important that we have role models, possibility models that are out there in the community to see themselves in those people and say, you know what, because of them, it doesn't have to be necessarily, you know, because my gay father, I see myself. It could be a trans person I seen out there. I grew up, I think one of the first trans people I saw in the community was somebody I grew up in around my Harlem neighborhood, was on 137th Street. Her name was Cookie, you know, and as much as we're trying to like make you seem like, you know, oh, stay away from that kind of person, don't go near that kind of person or whatever. I didn't have that in my community. In Harlem, we played spades with everybody on the block. And it was nobody saying, no, that's a man, or that's this, or that's that. That was just Miss Cookie, and that's it. And then you respect that person as they is. So like little things like that growing up in the community led me to understand that, you know, one, it's okay to be visible in the community as yourself. One, and it's important for you to be visible because there are going to be young people come up behind you who are going to be LGBTQ, AI, pansexual, two-spirited, whatever, and they can't be themselves if they don't have representation or visibility.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else have questions?
I do. I mean, I feel like, Daniel, I feel like you always have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community. And so well, maybe that's just what I think, because you always bring so much to our committee. So when you look at, I mean, I know that you live in the Bronx, but you spend a lot of time in Harlem. When you look at how things are in New York City in the age of COVID-19, would you say that things have gotten better for the LGBTQ community in any way, or have they gotten worse during the age of COVID-19?
Oh man, I feel like all communities, all marginalized communities, you know, have had a big hit when it comes to COVID-19. We've lost so many, and I like, you know, this is why a big reason why most of the summertime I've been like, you know, trying my best to like pour into myself and to like take care of myself, because I can go into a deep depression when thinking about how many people we've lost and who've died. And so I feel like, you know, there are great like study trials going on trying to figure out how to take care of this, particularly the people who have like been in the works looking at things around HIV and AIDS and the study trials around those. Definitely like committed all their focus on COVID-19 now. And so of course, like a lot of things get pushed back on the burner, but like reality is, I feel like those studies and those trials from HIV and AIDS are gonna help progress the studies and trials for COVID-19 as well. Like I said, I feel like we've lost a lot of people, and I feel like it's important that we, like I said, we usher up our youth to make sure that they are growing and learning from the elders in the right way, because we've lost so many of our elders that it's time for somebody else to step up and take the place and carry the baton to the next level.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Which on that point? Oops,
Daniel,
sorry.
so I know you personally for a long time. You worked with NAN. You helped to start the LGBTQ community back up. You've gone and expanded. You've done your own thing. But I had a specific question because I know you can answer it specifically. And I want us to understand that we have different levels of learners in here in the room. So we have young children, and then we have elders. So when you're explaining things, make sure you explain it so that everyone understands it completely. Because some people don't know what you're talking about. So I don't want you to skip ahead and then lose some of the listeners that are on here, because we're also sharing a live on Facebook. So it's way more people listening than those who you just see on here. Okay.
Yes, I'll try my best to.
Sorry. So homelessness, bullying, police brutality, violence, domestic abuse, murder, all major issues still impacting LGBTQ youth specifically. It impacts all ages, but the youth specifically. These are all separate issues. I know I just said a mouthful, but can we begin to discuss what is happening and how a civil rights group like NAN, who is basically allies and in leadership, but how we can begin to support the fight without taking it over? Can you begin to discuss that? And other speakers also can address that as well, please.
It's so interesting you say that because I've been thinking about that a lot as far as what's coming up with the March on Washington on the 28th. And I think Cole mentioned that the march is going to be leading with the families of people who have dealt with injustices of murders, mothers and fathers, etc. And so for me, I'm thinking about the fact that Black and Latino people who are LGBTQ have experienced some of those same murders and some of those injustices by the hands of police brutality, or another way of saying it is state sanctioned violence. And so Lately in Polanco's family has been connected with local New York and those people trying to make sure that her story gets told out there, and we're fighting for her issues. Lately in Polanco was, she died incarcerated in jail in solitary confinement. And that's an unfortunate way to go, however, but there was negligence that was there. And so it's important that we fight for her as well, and her family should be welcome to march with us on the 28th, as well as Tony McBride's and his family, trans man that was shot in Tallahassee. So like, it's important that we try our best to like welcome these families, to connect with them and bond with them and see how these situations are definitely they intersect. A lot of times when we think about gun violence, but it's gun violence month, a lot of situations happen with us as well. We don't get to see on the news all the time, and there's no huge rallies. However, these things happen to us as well. Gun violence month, I wanted to also remember Mark Carson. Mark Carson was shot in the village by someone who was like homophobic or who hated him or whatever. But I believe also, we can't really decipher whether it was just about him being gay or whatever. I'm sure there was a Hispanic guy, I think he was white or Hispanic, he was Hispanic passing. But the point is, he got shot because of who he was, period. And I'm sure he was all of who he was at that moment. He wasn't like, okay, just gay at that moment. He was black too. You know what I'm saying? So when we think about gun violence, there are a lot of things that happen in the community where the intersections cross hugely amongst black people, black trans people, black gay men, black lesbians, etc. So we have to really like listen, like, what's out there in the community, come join us or march with us, and make sure there's no separation between the two, because I think that's what's important. Like, people think, oh, we're separated and we gotta take a step back because our part of the movement is too confusing for the black movement. We have to take a seat back and say, you know what, it's not about that sometimes. But there are some things that intersect with black and Latino people. We're all not all the same. And so the struggles that black handicapped people are dealing with right now, we're not gonna like fight for their rights and their struggles because handicap issues are on the side burner to black issues.
That's a great point. Great point.
We gotta make sure we connect some of those things.
Yes.
On that point,
yes, ma'am.
I've got to interject a moment.
Sure.
One of the things I was asking is, I'm hoping that I'll be able to speak at the March on Washington, because the very first March on Washington by Dr. Martin Luther King, the march was laid out by Bayard Rustin, who was a gay man and had to be kept in the background because he was a gay man. And so if we're coming forward, and this is Nan, and I feel like I'm the grandmother of the huddle movement, but also in history, this man was kept back because he was gay. I would like to speak forward because, I'm here, I'm 81, and we're not that much separated, and we do not have that many differences. Also, with me tonight, would you all speak the name of Marsha P. Johnson?
Marsha P. Johnson. Unmute yourselves, everyone, when they say speak the name.
Marsha P. Johnson.
Marsha P. Johnson.
Stormy DeLaverai.
Stormy DeLaverai.
Sylvia Rivera.
Rivera.
The significance of this is to understand that when this all started in 1969, these were transgender and people of color and gay people. So it's all like interconnected. They're going to put a statue up across from the Stonewall of Marsha P. Johnson. I'm fighting to have a statue beside Marsha's of Stormy, because, like, yes, Marsha was transgender, but then also was Stormy. Stormy worked for years in show business as a male but female. So it's important that she have a statue, and then also Sylvia Rivera, because Sylvia Rivera was like, for lack of a better thing, bringing up the rear.
Thank you very much, Mother Kennedy. That is perfect. That is a perfect framing of who our LGBTQ ancestors are, who did the hard work, and we celebrate them.
We started it. Y'all youngins, finish it.
Amen. Amen. Okay. So that conversation, and Daniel, thank you so much for bringing so much history to us. You spoke of Layleen Polanco, and that makes me think immediately of Delores Nettles. And for those of you who don't know, Delores Nettles was a beautiful woman and is really the reason that we have the NAN Youth Huddle today. So we have Delores Nettles' mother here, and I don't see you, but I know that you're here. Dolores, are you?
Yes.
Yay!
All right.
Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so I can't hear you very well. I'm going to mute myself. Ashley, I don't know if you want to say a couple of words, but you can go ahead.
I just wanted to hark to what Cole said just before you briefly come on.
Sure, thank you.
I knew Elon as a designer. She was beautiful. She had a beautiful spirit. Her spirit lives on today through so many. And I'm thankful that her mother continued her fight on for justice. It was shortly after Elon was killed unjustly, and after the non-indictment of George Zimmerman, who killed Trayvon Martin. Those are the reasons why NAN Youth Huddle started. We had two programs. One was about Trayvon, one was about Justice for Elon, and that's how we met Daniel Williams, who just spoke, and a few other members who joined Huddle at that time. But it wasn't called Huddle. And we saw through that there needed to be conversation had. There was anger at that same time, like it is right now. We didn't see it as much as it is, as big as it is, as monumental as it is right now, but it was still at that time growing. And Elon was the fuel at that time in Harlem. And her name has never, ever, ever gone forgotten because of many people in the community. Salute to Daquan Andino, and salute to Fatima Berry, two of her friends who made sure that her name and her story was told. And salute always to you who brought it into this world, but also made sure that her story was continued to be told. Thank you, Cole, for bringing us to this platform once again. Thank you, Daniel, for your constant support of you, and we will always say her name. Thank you, and I'm sorry I was a little long-winded, but thank you and for joining us on this platform tonight.
All right.
Thank you, Ashley. You can go ahead, Dolores. Floor is yours.
Okay, well, a little bit about me. I'm the mother of a trans and non-binary, which is GNC daughter.
Hang on just 1 second. Your audio is coming a little bit choppy. I'm sorry.
It is. I'm going to try to plug in. Give me 5 minutes. Matter of fact, give me the link right now, the number of the link, so I can do it on the laptop instead of the phone. Maybe that's why.
Okay.
No problem.
No problem.
Okay.
No problem. In the meantime, Anthony Dulce, do you want to, while I handle the technical issues with Mrs. Nettles, do you want to go ahead and go next?
Sure.
You ready? Okay. Thank you.
Hi.
All right.
Good evening. Good evening. Hi there, Youth Huddle. Hello. How's everyone tonight? Nice to see you. My name's Anthony Dulce, for those of you who might not know me. Next month will be 1 year that I've been with the National Action Network as a member. You know, I'm really proud of that, and I'm looking forward to my 1 year anniversary. And I'd like to say that I think that the work that we're doing on the Youth Huddle is really amazing. It's very cutting edge. We are setting an example for the younger generation in ways that we never had in my generation. I'm 50 years old, and we never had this kind of outlet, a place to go to be ourselves and to express ourselves in ways, you know, ask people in our community questions that we have about our sexuality. You know, what does it mean to be gay? What does it mean to be openly gay and in the closet? You know, and I remember clearly 30 years ago that there's no handbook. There's no handbook. There's no handbook on how to be gay and what it means to be gay. So you kind of really find out things sometimes the hard way, you know. And if you're lucky, like you are today with the Youth Huddle, you have a safe place to come to meet people.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Yes.
But can I ask you a specific question?
Yes.
Just to keep the conversation going. I know personally that you are not just an LGBTQ advocate, you are also anti-Trump, anti-Trump protester. You're avid, you're always out there encouraging people to vote. So what are you looking for? What are you looking for in this election? As far as the candidates, we basically know who's running, who this election is between. But what are you looking for as far as Biden, or to deliver as far as the LGBTQ community, as far as support for minorities? What are you looking to hear? What as far as his platform, as far as in the debates, or are you just sold completely on Biden because you're anti-Trump? What are we looking for in this conversation, and how can we make more people get out the vote and register to vote right now, because that's extremely important, and I know that that's what you do in the community.
Well, as a lot of you know, I am not a fan of Trump, and I do enjoy making fun of his political views in a way that makes maybe more sense to some other people. He's been really politically vacant of the LGBTQ community's needs and protection. I feel that since he's been in office, he hasn't represented our community in any way that I find that's constructive or positive or supporting. I'm really hoping that Biden wins the election this fall. I'm voting for him. My family's voting for him. And I hope that when he's elected, that he really makes history, not only for, you know, the Black community, but also the LGBTQ community. Because when you look at both communities, there are so many similarities and parallels. You know, both communities suffer many indifferences and discrimination on different ways. And we need a president who can set the record straight and lead an example that we can follow in this country.
All right. All right.
Amen.
Yes, and I feel that we need to get out there and get our family more involved in politics and getting them, you know, educated on why it's so important to vote. I never really was into politics until some things happened to my family these past few years in Manhattan, and I realized how important it is to be informed about legislation and things that, you know, bills that need to be not only passed, but enforced for the LGBTQ community. Currently in Manhattan, there is zero protection in housing. We had a landslide victory recently in employment for the gay community, and I would like to see the same thing happen in housing. In housing here in Manhattan, landlords do not have to give a reason why they no longer want you to live in their home. And I say, no, you have to have a legitimate reason. You can't just throw me out because I'm queer.
Right.
So,
Wow.
yes.
Thank you for bringing up that important point. I really appreciate it.
I have another question.
Awesome.
Yes.
what other changes would you like to see in the LGBTQ community that we allies can help you change?
That's a very good question.
I love that question.
Yes, very good question. I went to the Queer Liberation March yesterday, and I had a lot of mixed feelings about who was there, but more importantly, who was not there. And I just feel like our white gay brothers and sisters do not fully embrace the Black and Latino and transgender community. And unfortunately, there's segregation even within the community that needs to change. We are never going to get anything accomplished until we come together and stand shoulder to shoulder on these issues that are facing our gay community.
Amen.
So,
Amen. Go right there.
yes. So that's why activism is so important. It's so important.
Indeed.
And I think that protesting is wonderful because the people you protest, they hate it. Politicians, police officers, I say we go stand in front of the police precincts and protest their injustices and their police brutality. They hate it.
That is
so
awesome.
we need to constantly keep reminding them what we feel that they're doing is wrong. Yeah.
That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Anthony.
you so much.
That is perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right, so it looks like we have Delores Nettles back.
Yes, I am.
Sorry,
Okay.
Pinnacle. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do you hear me?
Someone
Okay.
else wanted to answer the question as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Dolores, hang on just a second. Somebody else wants to say something.
Okay.
Yeah, Pentacle, can you repeat the question real quick?
What changes that do people in the LGBT community want to see change, and how can allies help to make the change as well?
I think one of the most important things we need to have assistance on as far as changing in our communities is the education that has been put out there about LGBT folks in general. Our history, LGBT history is Black history, because we are one of the forefronts of this movement, and so therefore that is Black history, and so that needs to be reiterated or somehow rearranged in Black history, that it included Black LGBTQ people. James Baldwin, Bayard Rustin, Audre Lorde, just to name a few, are part of the movement. And so, like I said, there needs to be some kind of re-education around those things, that that the education community of regular Black America can assist on those things, because what's happening is, like, people are saying that we're separate and that we're different or we're not a part, and and the reality is that's a lie. One of the exciting things, I came to NAN and I realized that, some of the deep history of National Action Network was a part of the LGBT community. Like, Reverend Kennedy was there. Al Sharpton's sister, was there. So it's important to understand these things are part of the history, and not have this miseducation that, oh, we're separate and we're different and we're not a part of our community. We've always been a part of our community, and we've always been here. And so re-education around that is so important, because young people are growing up to these days, and they're having a miseducation around Black history, and they're also having a miseducation around who was there in the forefront as far as LGBT folks.
That is perfect. See, I told you that you were always giving out great information, Daniel. Thank you. That is a beautiful point. Okay, so now we have Delores Nettles, who's back, and I'm going to turn it right over to you, Delores.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. A little bit about me. I'm a mother of a transgender woman who got murdered in 2013. Her name was Islan Nettles. We can all say her name.
Islan Nettles.
Yes. She was catwalked between 145th and 147th Street. And once the assailant knew that she was a trans woman, he went into a rage and beat my daughter to death. She was on life support and everything from August 17th to the 24th. I just want you guys to really be aware of what's going on around you. and talk to your parents. You know, that's basically what you need to do. Sit down, talk to your parents, let your parents know how you feel. You know, I'm sure some people parents won't understand, but you have to try to make them understand. And I know it's hard, but you give them an hour or two and you sit there and you try to have a conversation with your mom, your dad. And if you see it's not getting anywhere or it's getting argumentative, then maybe you should walk away and maybe do it at a later date. But let your parents or guardian, let them know how you feel and who you are. I never tried to downplay Islam. I always accepted my baby no matter what. My baby has been transformed from gay into transgender. So I went through every step of the way with her. So she was granted that opportunity that, thank God, I could go through that. But some parents can't. And I just want you young people to understand, you know, give them a chance. You know, give your parents a chance. They may not understand. Some parents are older, some parents are younger, but give it a chance. If there's any questions that you want to ask, it's fine. And I also have a gender non-confirmed twin as well. She doesn't want to be called anything, but she's like bisexual, and then she doesn't want to be bisexual. She really doesn't know right now because she's at 13, the age of 13, when you really start to find yourself. So I'm going through that with her, and I enjoy it to the fullest. I really enjoy it because it teaches me a lot of learning things as well. So if anybody has any questions for me, you can definitely give me any.
Yeah, I have a question. Having been the mother of 8 children, you have a set of twins. One, Tia was saying she's a girl, and Mia is at the thing. So I personally would like to offer, and Cole doesn't know about this, but I would like to personally offer Cole to her as gender non-conforming. It's so important that at that age, they have somebody that they can look up to or look at and say, hey, I can be all right with that. I think that is one of the most important things. I remember like back in the day when we were starting to come along with the LGBT movement, quote unquote, there were so many people. Who do I talk to? Who can I see? The other side of that is like you're telling the young people to talk to their parents. And on the other side, I'm saying that we should be available to talk to parents to help the young people.
As well. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. You are perfectly right. You're perfectly right. If they want to reach out to me, I'm always available. I'll give you my phone number, my email, my Facebook. If you need your parent to sit down and talk to me, I'm willing to meet them and sit down, have coffee, tea, or whatever, and we could talk about it. Maybe they might hear it better from another parent,
yes,
you know, than their child. So I'm willing to talk to your parent for you.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah.
That's incredible and really powerful.
Yes.
I have a question. Do you feel that you and your family have received justice for Islam? Do you feel at the end of the day you got to see the day where you saw justice? And then if so, I just have another layer to the question. What have you been doing since Islam's death? I know that we've seen you out, you know, doing the activism thing. You've been out on the streets, like really trying to get laws changed and to really like honor her legacy. But if you can just explain to the platform, like some of the things that, you know, maybe we can support you in the near future, we can collaborate or partner with to make sure that we are continuing the efforts of, you know, honoring Islam's legacy and also pushing for reforms in, you know, areas that could have protected her life.
Okay. Well, I love to do the activists. I'm associated with the Ali Farnay Center as well. Mm-hmm. It's one other one too. I can't remember. I'm sorry, but
Dietrich Martin.
Huh?
Dietrich Martin.
No. No. Get my plaque. The plaque thing I have that I got, and I can read it from off of there. I got the opportunity to get an award from them. And it was absolutely, I met Laylene Polanco as well, her family. And being the mom of a trans and doing activist, I believe I've learned more now than I have ever learned before.
Wow.
So I believe, I really believe it. I'm learning every day. Okay, so Islam is not here to teach me. So I learned through you. You know, you are my teachers as well as I can teach you different things too. As far as helping me, Al Sharpton, Nan has helped me beautifully. And you keep supporting me. And we support our youth, whether it's all Black Lives Matter.
That's right.
Okay, not just LGBTQ, it's all Black lives. You know, we were having a discussion today as far as like the George Floyd situation. And I said, you know, it's terrible that us as a community, we don't put together all Black Lives Matter. We kind of seclude the LGBTQ and regular homophobic, I'm gonna say, trans, non-trans people. You have to come together. That's the only way they're gonna hear us. If we all come together, we have to. We have to come together and form a platform so they can hear us on all of our issues. Because it's not just one. It's not one issue that we're having.
Delores, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a question in the chat. It says, while you make it seem so easy that you have accepted your children, what do you say to parents who just can't seem to accept their child?
I tell parents, when you had this baby, you knew it grew inside of you. You loved it from the moment you found out. What is the problem? You have to keep that love going. It's too much suicide rates with our children. When they can't sit down and talk to us, they hurt themselves. Or they go out there and get into trouble, or they go to sex trafficking. You don't want that for your kid. At the end of the day, when we got pregnant, we didn't know if we was having a boy, girl, whatever. We just know, okay, I'm carrying a baby. And I love them. So why you can't love them for who they are?
Right.
You love your child for who they are. I don't care what they are. If they was red, purple, gray, blue, that's my baby. I love them. There's no difference with being with Down syndrome, anything. You know, any kind of sickness, you still love your child. You love them. That's all they're asking for is love. And if you love them, maybe you could better yet understand where they're coming from. But like I said, if anybody needs me to answer any questions for them or talk to their parents, I will give you my email, my phone number. Call me anytime. And I am available. I am in Harlem.
And you are amazing. And we are so blessed to have you. Thank you.
Hey, I got a question. This also came up on Facebook where they was trying to ask, like, is it appropriate to have Elsa as the first LGBT princess in a children's movie, because they said that, oh, you know, we had Snow White with their prince, but then we make, you know, Elsa the very first LGBT princess. And what I said was that yeah, it's appropriate because, you know, everybody wants to be, you know, represented on children's movies, but how do you feel about it?
Exactly.
That question is for me?
Yes.
Okay, yes. How are you? I would love to see that. I would love to see it. And I say that because we have so many white movies that we see ourselves in, and we don't last that long in them as being an African American. And to have our own platform as African American people and having our movies published, yes, I think LGBTQ should have their own movies as well. Because I wouldn't want to sit up there and just watch the same movie over and over again. Yes, I want to see different things. That way we all get to learn how the trans life lives, how the lesbian life lives, everything, how the different aspects of life. That's where your learning aspect comes from. You get to learn and you get that knowledge.
Can I just ask a general question before the conversation moves on? I'm sorry, Coda, to keep jumping.
No,
in.
no, that's okay.
It's okay.
I want Richard
This is
also in the
awesome.
conversation. But I just noticed as the conversation goes on, can you just explain once again? I know you briefly did it in the beginning, Chaplain Cole, but everybody wasn't on yet. Can you explain what LGBTQIA means exactly? Explain the acronym, explain what they stand for. And also, I know this may sound ignorant, but also people don't understand it either. Pronouns. So pronouns, now people list their pronouns at the end of messages, at their emails, whatnot. How do you respectfully, if you don't know what's going on, or if you mistakenly say the wrong pronoun, how does that conversation work? How should that be addressed now? And can you also explain the LGBTQIA acronym for everyone that's tuning in, because everyone doesn't understand or know how to address it properly, honestly. Anyone can take that answer who's properly informed to give it. Please.
Well, okay, first, if I may, first thing started out, as you notice, the years go on, letters get added. When it first started, and the very first march that we had was started like by people that first year, 1970, people were like, well, who's here, you know? And so lesbian people say, well, we're here. And there were a lot of people saying, well, we're gay, we're here. You know, so there was that was lesbian and gay. Then this was like people that had came and like they called themselves friends of the community. They were bisexual, so there came the B. And then finally, at first, it was two-spirited, which were the Indian people that were, you know, that felt that they were part of LGBT. But then they kind of dropped the two-spirited and went to T, which was trans. And then it was transgender, and then was LGBT. Q came up years later as questioning. And then afterwards, another letter was added, which was an I. And then lately there was an A. Now, I don't know about the I and the A, but I can explain the LGBTQ.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kennedy. I know Daniel was speaking as well at the same time. Daniel, please.
Yeah, I'll just fill in with Reverend Kennedy left off. So the I is intersex, and those are people who, the formal word was hermaphrodites, people who were born with both sexes. I'm going to use anatomically words, penis and vagina, right? And so they were born that way, right? So those are people who are intersex. And the A was asexual, people who don't have any sexual desires. And so sometimes people will argue about, when I say people, us in the community, the LGBT community, will argue that the A also stands for ally. And the argument is very much like, you know, we don't want to have allies have a stakehold in our community. But I think allies are very important. P flag, parents of friends of LGBT folks. My mom has been a huge ally. People in the community who don't identify as straight, I feel like the A should automatically be there for allies, because it's important for them to be a part of our community as well, because without our allies, we don't have support, we don't have backing. And so that's the A and the I. And then also the P is pansexual, is those who identify as their sexual orientation is they are attracted to or open to be attracted to any gender. So that means transgender, cisgender males, cisgender females, and trans men. And so they're open to, attracted to those genders. And for pansexuality, it's not really so much about a gender. It's more so about people's connections and spirituality and energies. That's what they are. And as far as pronouns is concerned, I think for pronouns, it's really important that people get to self-identify how they feel, how they see themselves as. So, you know, there's new wave of like young folks that are coming up in the generations today. I've sat in groups with them, and there are so many people who are on the outside looking at them. You would assume they are he's and they are hens. However, these communities are growing up where they're losing some of these bondages that society has put on them, saying that they have to be either or, which is a binary, male or female. And so I'm speaking to young people, and they look just like me, and they say, you know what, my pronouns are they, them, he, she, him, his, and etc. Just don't call me anything out of the ordinary or derogatory. And so I'm, myself as a community leader and as an activist, I'm confused sometimes myself. Like, wait a minute, what's going on? And the reality is, I have to stop seeing things through my lenses and assuming that they are what they are. People get to identify how they identify, and if we don't know, if we're confused, and we don't know what to ask questions. What are your pronouns? My pronouns are this. Offer yours and ask theirs. And if they're open, a lot of times people are open to like basically having going back and forth between he and she. And if you're not comfortable with that, just pick one and just call them by their name. We just have to have that conversation as if it's not a problem, where it's an issue. And oftentimes, I have a colleague at my job who is she identifies as he and she, and then she also identifies as they. And so my boss goes back and forth with the pronouns, and she messes up the pronouns sometimes. And at the end of the day, with our allies in the community, we have to be open and work with them and say, listen, we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna make mistakes and call a wrong pronoun. What we have to do is be able to work with each other and say, one, it's not done in malice. Two, I'm making mistakes because I'm learning. And I have to be open to like saying, you know what, I own my mistake if I said the wrong pronoun, and move forward and try my best to correct myself as we go along, because I want to make sure I respect you as you respect me.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Hey, I got a question. Can you hear me?
Hey, David. Hi. Yeah, sure. Hi.
I'm doing all right. Hey, Delores, how you doing?
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Long time no see.
Yeah, over 20 years. Over 20 years.
Yes.
Yes. So I just wanted to ask everyone, what actions are being done to help protect children, like little boys, little girls, from child predators and molesters? Because many times people in the gay community either become gay or become gay bashers because they've been molested or raped. So what actions are being done to protect children?
That I think the question has to be restated because it was a blanket question.
Yeah.
It was a blanket question?
I don't know if it's necessarily a blanket question, but I feel like it's a question that's often too affiliated with LGBT folks.
Yes.
Predators are across the board in every community,
Right.
Heterosexual, etc. So, what are people doing? I don't know if we are looking at the Black American movement and injustices, and we're going to start launching off, what are we doing about predators? What's being done about predators is that, there are classes and people are being trained to make sure that, listen, there are red flags when you see a predator. And we make sure those,
Do you have a background? There's some background noise. Do you have background noise behind you?
Hold on.
Sir, if I may, one thing that I was thinking as you were speaking was, I've worked for the Administration for Children's Services and actually worked specifically with children sexually abused. And I've done so for probably 9 years. I think in all the years I did sex abuse, which was about 7, I never even came across a child molested by a person of the LGBTQ community. So I think that also it's a negative stereotype, much like those that people that look like us just because of their brown skin kind of suffer. So we really have to be careful about it, because I think that with that sexual molestation, oftentimes I've seen biological fathers do it. I've seen stepfathers do it. I've seen your friend who spent the night because it was a snowstorm do it. So it's the people who are closest to us and who we'd least expect. And I don't think that it necessarily has to do with them being not only of the LGBTQ community, but of any special orientation. I think that it's some type of mental illness that people suffer from all different types of backgrounds and sexualities. So I just wanted to share that.
And also on that note, one of the things was we fought for years, the Psychiatric Association, and finally, after about I think it took 5 years for them to take that off, that homosexuality was psychiatric, or you were crazy, or you were a child molester. We got that done. And there's a film that's coming out, I don't know now with this pandemic, but we did a film about it. It's called Cured. And one of the things about Cured was that we fought that stereotyping of that all LGBTQ people were child molesters. Because 9 times out of 10, just like the sister said, it happens within your own family. It's uncles, fathers, fathers, stepfathers, uncles, cousins, and whatever. Very seldom LGBTQ community. And those that are in the LGBT community that do that is because of self-hatred, and it's because they have a feeling that they need to get even. And so, it's like a lot of things about weeding out so that we don't get blamed for things that other people are doing that has nothing to do with LGBTQ.
That's good, because one of the reasons why I asked that, because many people come across those type of questions because children get molested by men and women within throughout society. So those are the type of things that need to be spoken about and also be addressed.
No, definitely.
Definitely right. I think you basically are saying that molest people that are gay are molest people, and the way you act.
No, I wasn't saying
wrong. The way you act is wrong, which is why everyone responded in that way. That's all everyone is saying and addressing the way you asked it.
Can I say something about that?
Yes, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead, L'Oreal.
And also, if you have questions, that's why we'd like you to put them in the chat first, and then we can welcome you to ask the questions. But don't just unmute and just go on, please, because there are moderators for the conversation. Go ahead, Lorianne.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. So a couple of things David said that made me very uncomfortable, and and unfortunately they're common stereotype. Every gay person was not molested as a child. Right. You understand? That's for one. For two, I know people who are molested and still straight. Some people didn't get over it. Some people got over it, as they say. So that depends on the person. Secondly, the correlation with pedophiles and being gay. A lot of pedophiles are not gay.
Hello.
You understand? They're mentally ill. There needs to be a very unique distinction between homosexuality and pedophilia. A pedophile is an adult who likes kids. You understand? A pedophile is an adult who likes kids. Gay people are people who like each other in the same sex. Mother Kennedy already broke down every letter. It is an error, and it's not correct to just assume that because someone is gay they were molested, or that there is even any correlation. Now sometimes there is, but those are not everyone. That's not for everyone. You understand what I'm saying? And then a lot of times, people need to find a reason why someone is gay. Maybe they're just gay. Why does there have to be a reason? Why did they have to be touched? Why? You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes people just are what they are. And then some people just go with the flow of life. Sometimes they're gay, sometimes they're not. You understand? But this whole needing to define and put everything in a box so that people can understand, it's an error. It's a psychological error. Like sometimes you can't just, it's like a want to control. I need to control what I think of you, so I'm gonna put you in this little box. And if you do anything that says you're outside of this box, now I don't understand. And we need to stop trying to understand everything, and sometimes just say, okay, well, this is different than what I'm used to, but you know what? That's a human being as well. Because I'm gonna tell you something. A lot of this is where you find the error in the separation and the divisiveness in the Black Lives Matter movement. Like, we're all human beings at the end of the day. We're all Black. It don't matter if you're trans, if you're gay, if you're straight, they're still gonna kill you. You understand? And we need to focus on the bigger picture. All right, I'm gonna stop right there.
Well said, Lorianne.
Hey, that was awesome. That was awesome. Okay, if there are no other questions, I really want to move on. Daniel, do you have something?
I just wanted to say one more thing about that.
Please.
You guys can hear me?
Yes.
So as far as like the whole notion about like, kids turning up, gay or lesbian or any other acronym because they've been touched as a child by like pedophilia or molestation, I think it's important to understand that, listen, a lot of times these kids are targeted and they're sought after because they're different. Okay, so often people will want to say, well, they're gay because they were touched. No. they're gay because they're gay, and they're touched because they were gay, because people had sought out to them because they're different. Oftentimes, people who are predators, they love the ideal around privacy and confusion. And so because they know that the child is going to be different, that means they can prey on them in a way that they start grooming them to make sure that they are, step out of the rooms of ordinary kids. And so I can do things with them. I can show them things that are inappropriate, and they would be okay or aroused or some kind of way. Many people who were molested or touched as a child, they were aroused. They were excited. They were into the thing that they were being touched that way.
You're coming in and out.
But they don't much your orientation and say, okay, I like guys. I'm like 12 years old, but I don't want to be with an older man. I didn't ask for these things. So you have to understand that the LGBT people are often the target of molestation, not because of their LGBTQ, but they are these things, and so people targeted towards them because of those things, because they saw that they were different. And because they were different, they're going to keep quiet about it because they know they're ashamed and they think it's wrong. And that's what helps the predator, because they don't want to have things be out in the open.
Right.
Thank you.
No,
I appreciate that.
On that point, just one little quick thing. On to what Daniel said. My family, my mother tell me, come to me, talk to me about anything. I talked to her about how I love little girls and I think they were pretty and whatnot and things like that. Mama never said a word. Once the story got around, I was raised up in Saratoga Springs, New York. My family, my mother married me off at 14 years of age to a minister that was 35 years old because she was called herself trying to cure me. Now, she almost went to jail because she never should have signed those papers in the state of New York. But that is one of the things that does happen.
And it's tragic.
Families try to cure you.
Thank you for sharing that, because I know it's a very powerful and painful story for you, Reverend Kennedy. And it's important that we hear, that happened. So thank you for sharing that. We're going to keep on moving. We have 2 more speakers. I'm very excited to welcome Richard Brookshire. He is an experienced strategic communications professional. He has a history of cultivating dynamic and engaging digital and social impact campaigns, and his portfolio is just unbelievable. I've been trying to work with Richard for a very long time now. He holds a Master's of Public Administration and Urban Policy and a specialization in media and advocacy from Columbia University. He has a BA in political science from Fordham University, and Richard is the co-founder of the Black Veterans Project, which is an archive-driven advocacy organization that's focused on advancing research and storytelling to address systemic racial inequalities across the military and veteran landscape. We are very, very pleased and excited to have this young, progressive, amazing voice. I present to you all, Richard Brookshire. Hi, Richard.
Hi. This has been such a dynamic conversation. So first of all, thank you to everyone who's here. And thank you to all the elders. I mean, I stand on your shoulders, and I mean, I couldn't be able to do the work or live in my truth if it wasn't for the ways in which you showed up as your true selves, not only in the past, but even now, and you continue to inspire me. So thank you. I don't even know necessarily where to start. I guess I'll just give you guys a little brief kind of synopsis of
guys and gals.
Guys and gals, I'll give you a little brief synopsis on what I'm working on and how I kind of infuse an LGBT lens into my work. So as Cole said, I am the co-founder of the Black Veterans Project, and she already kind of surmised it, but we're really looking at building out a digital archive and undertaking robust research around racial inequity, correcting a history that is deeply rooted. For those that aren't familiar, after the Civil War, there was an organization founded called the Daughters of the Confederacy. And they, for about 100 years, took on a robust effort to not only erect monuments and namesakes and kind of rewrite American history, but specifically targeted textbooks and wanting to kind of reshape the public imagination around what the Confederacy was. And to this day, those namesakes and those statues are even now in the most recent protests starting to come down, but there are thousands of them across the country. And so the Black Veterans Project is specifically looking at taking out the vestiges of the Confederacy in the military, because there are some of the most preeminent bases in our Army are named after Confederate generals. And even at the most elite schools that the military offers, there are still dormitories that are named after Confederate generals. And so we know that that's a first step. That's just a symbolic step toward really making sure that the vestiges of white supremacy are removed from this really important American institution. And so we're really invested in that work. And how I infuse an LGBT lens, I mean, I'm LGBT, so and I'm the leader of the organization. So I think I'm very mindful of inclusion and making sure that I'm bringing a broad array of different voices to the table, but specifically because trans members of our nation's military are still largely, excluded. And there are laws now in place because of Trump that excludes them from service. And so we're really making sure that we're a voice about that. And we continue to push a narrative that is inclusive. But as we kind of look to building out this archive, that we're discovering and making sure that we're telling LGBT histories that are, included in this broader landscape of the veteran experience, because LGBT people have always served this country and will continue to serve this country. And so we want to make sure that their stories are central.
Question.
Yes.
What was the Daughters of what?
The Daughters of the Confederacy.
The Daughters of the Confederacy. On that point, they were the ones that stopped Marian Anderson from singing in Washington, D.C. It's long before all y'all was born. But anyway, and she sang at the Lincoln Memorial because they forbid her to sing in the hall in Washington, D.C. I forgot what the name of it was. But anyway, they were over that. And they were also very instrumental in making sure a lot of these statues got done around the country.
I'll share a little video in the chat. It's just a very brief kind of YouTube video you guys can watch later, but it's a video, and it basically kind of summarizes the history around what the Daughters of the Confederacy actually did by way of like a historical project. And we're just really not only just seeking to undo a lot of that work, but making sure, like I said, that we're really kind of pushing forward the envelope around inclusion.
Amen. Go right there.
Yeah. So thanks for having me. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was just gonna pause and see if anybody wanted to jump in, because I have several questions. I'm sorry. Did somebody want to say something? Okay. So Richard, as a veteran, I know that, and while you were talking, I posted into the chat your amazing article that was published a couple of weeks ago in the New York Times. So that is amazing. Congratulations on being published by the New York Times. That is quite the honor.
Thank you.
And in your article, you talk about how serving in the Army as a Black queer man opened your eyes to racism in America. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that and explain, maybe perhaps in the context of the current uprising that we're having, how you really see your status as a queer veteran, a queer Black veteran.
Yeah. The article kind of goes into that a little bit, but I'll surmise it for you guys. I mean, I've always kind of been aware of racism, right? I don't think you can grow up as a young person of color and not kind of be aware that there's something amiss around, like, even just the ways in which you're being affirmed as you grow up. And I grew up in a predominantly white community in Southern Florida. I'm Haitian, so my mom kind of came and migrated and settled in this little Jewish community. And Sac passe, everybody. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons that I survived a lot of that experience was because I did a year at Morehouse College before I joined. So I ended up losing my scholarship. That's a whole nother story for another day. But yeah, everybody study and do your homework. But So I think because, you know, my experience at Morehouse rooted me so deeply and affirmed me so deeply, I was able to hold on to a semblance of myself that had been so affirmed in this very, I think, violent environment. Because, I mean, the military is kind of predicated in a lot of ways, not only on just being white, but also being male, being heterosexual. I served under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It actually changed on my birthday when I was deployed to Afghanistan. And so, you know, I kind of got to serve in two different militaries. And I think for me, I've always been really cognizant of the ways in which, you know, being able to live out loud can be affirming to others, right? And so even in the last year of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I decided to come out to my colleagues at the risk of perhaps being put out of the military, but I felt it was really important that I kind of stand in that truth, specifically because I was about to go put myself on the line to potentially die for my country. So if I couldn't do it in completely like as who I was, it just wasn't worth the sacrifice.
Yes.
So I think that even now I'm very much mindful of that. And, you know, I think your question more specifically was, you know, how my different identities informed really kind of coming to a full awareness around racism in America, or even homophobia. I mean, I think, you know, at face value, there was a lot of people who didn't know I was gay, right? And there weren't other people in the military that were as fortunate because they were more feminine presenting. I was in an all male unit. And so even before I'd gotten to my unit, there was a young man who had just got back from Iraq, and he was beaten with a bat in the shower. And so it was just a story that was just shared. And it was kind of to just, you know, and in a lot of respects, to shame anyone who'd want to come out as gay in this very, very macho environment. And so that was top of mind. But I think second to that, I think I got to interact with white people from all across the United States, and the ways in which racism is an insidious kind of, I don't even know what to say, mental decay is what I can say. I'll say that.
Come on.
It's a disease,
Yes.
right? Because you fail to kind of see other people as full human beings and kind of recognize their right to exist and take up space. And so having to confront that was difficult too. And then I was just young, so I didn't necessarily, I was stationed in Germany, so I didn't necessarily quite fully understand what it meant when people were fascinated by Hitler, or when they would, you know, there were swastikas still in some of the buildings and people would want to take photos next to it, or they were reading Mein Kampf, which is Hitler's autobiography that he wrote when he was imprisoned. People were just reading that casually, right? And that kind of indoctrination, what that can bear, what that can lead to is incredibly dangerous. There was a young man that I had served with, though I didn't know him personally, we were stationed on the same base. We went to Afghanistan together, and we got out around the same time. He ended up becoming a white supremacist and actually ended up coming to New York, I think in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, and to kill a black person. And he ended up killing a homeless black man. And I write about that in the New York Times piece. And how, like, in a lot of ways, because white, you know, racists will often make you feel like you're the crazy one for thinking that something's amiss, and that, you know, they're not necessarily giving you as many opportunities, or they're underestimating you. I think I've definitely had to fight against being underestimated quite a bit in the military. But you rise above and you keep on pushing. And I think I've changed more hearts and minds than I can count by just showing up as my full self and demanding a level of respect. So I just encourage all the young people to however they identify and whoever they want to be in the world, like, the world is your oyster. And you really have to believe that. And you really have to kind of get about the business of figuring out who you are and standing in that truth really proudly. Like, I mean, it's never too early to do that. And the sooner that you can do that, the sooner you can get about the business of doing what you're here to do, which everybody is here for a distinct purpose. And it's taken me, you know, 32 years to fully figure out that, you know, this purpose of all my experiences have led me to this work with the Black Veterans Project. But it's been well worth the journey. So I implore everybody to just keep on pushing.
I have one more question. Is there any legislation that Black Veterans Project supports or is trying to get pushed in support?
Well, other than the trans issue that I raised earlier, one of the biggest pieces, and it's going to be a series of legislation because this is not going to be an easy fight, and we're really just starting. We were actually the Congress just formed a Black Veteran Coalition that I was appointed to, and we're first working with the House Veteran Affairs Committee to kind of start to really tackle racial equity issues. And so, just really quick, because I can talk about this a lot. When you think about the build out of the American middle class, a lot of it's predicated or it's based upon access to something called the GI Bill. At some point in our nation's history, there was a large cross-section of young men. I think the majority, I think 60% upwards of young men between the ages of 18 and 36 served in the military in some shape or form during their life. And because of that, they had access to something called the GI Bill. And the GI Bill was a series of legislations that gave you housing benefits, education benefits, healthcare benefits, employment opportunity. And it came out around the around the end of World War II. There was a compromise with the GI Bill, and there's a book that if everybody wants to read, it's called When Affirmative Action Was White, but it's written by a Columbia professor, and he basically kind of talks about the compromise that was reached when the GI Bill was passed was that it would be administered on the state level. And what that means is that Southern states would then have the ability to block Black veterans from being able to reap their full benefits, right? And so that happened for decades, and that also coincided with the build out of the American middle class. The suburbs, white flight, a bunch of different types of things happened simultaneously. And so what I argue is that part of the reasons that we see such steep economic inequity along racial lines is specifically tied to this idea of benefit obstruction related to the GI Bill. And so part of our work is really connecting that history and that legacy to what's happening now, which is the military also, and a lot of people don't know, has its own separate judicial system. So we know that the justice system on the civilian side is racist. Everyone's very aware of that. But you have this whole other apparatus that is operating independently that's just as racist and continuing around kicking young Black men out of the military, getting them involved in the justice system within the military, and then stripping them of their benefits. So it's just this linear narrative that's been happening for probably since the Civil War, right? And so part of what we want to do is expose these truths, make sure that we can connect them, and then we can start to track them by way of data. And to your point, to your question about what legislation we're actually looking to push forward more immediately, since 2013, the military has been collecting racial bias data. So that means biannually, they're mandated to do a survey of veteran service members to ask them about their kind of experiences with racial bias. They've been collecting this data, but it's never been published. They've been also collecting this data around gender, but they've been publishing it every 2 years. And so what we're actually demanding first and foremost is the release of this data, the publication of this data. And it's a starting point to a wider conversation that we want to have about every facet of the military experience that I feel like needs to be interrogated, because we know how insidious racism is and perhaps how it pervades every kind of facet of the institution. So everything from the exam that you take to get in, the fact that exam also leads to the majority of jobs that Black people have in the military being service-oriented roles. And, that's connected to another history because, for a long time, Black people were only allowed to have service-oriented jobs in the military. So we're just kind of connecting all of these kind of histories for people so they have a more fuller understanding. And I really believe it's deeply important because any organized society is going to have a military, and that's confronting the military-industrial complex is valid, and it definitely needs to be done. And we definitely have an overinflated budget, and there's a lot to address there. But equity in this system is deeply important when we talk about the maintenance of our democracy, because the stand between, if Trump was to decide to become a dictator and forego the election, the stand between is our military. So making sure that it's an equitable system, and because of the benefits that you're able to get by way of the military, my ability to get housing and education and all the things that I've been able to get post-service, those are things that every American is fighting for. But surely every American that has put their life on the line, have gone overseas and gone to war for this country should be given. I believe every American should have access to housing and healthcare. That's a whole other conversation. But the starting point is to make sure that it's given to the people that they've already promised it to. So I've spoken enough, but that's my piece.
Thank you for answering. Thank you so much.
That was amazing. That was amazing. As a veteran myself, somebody that did 4 combat tours, 2 in Iraq and 2 in Afghanistan. I've spent a number of years getting shot at in the Middle East. And for me, what you were talking about, a lot of it really resonated, because I just found out last week that the military installation where I received my commission in the United States Army was named after a Confederate general.
Yeah, I didn't even know that history until more recently. I mean, I knew that there were names, but I didn't know how pervasive it was when I Googled it and I saw the names, and it's literally every major Army installation in the South is named after a Confederate general. Like,
Exactly.
you start to think about what that indoctrination means. And just like people were so married when I was in Germany to this Nazi symbolism, they're just as deeply married to this Confederate symbolism, and it's deeply problematic. And it's just a starting point. It's only symbolic, but it's necessary, right? When we start to talk about people's ability to feel safe in this institution, but also feel like they can bring their full selves to it, which is something that we need to fight for, because I do believe that every single American should have, in some respect, the ability to serve their country, and we really need to make sure that they have the opportunity to do so.
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to acknowledge that we have Mr. Winston Gilchrist, who is a Marine veteran, who is on tonight. As usual, I love you. I love you, sir. I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. You're awesome.
Okay, now I gotta really run y'all back in a bit of history, her story. First of all, that swastika that the Germans used is an Indian symbol. It was taken from the Algonquins and the Mohawk people. They used that symbol and turned it around. The swastika that you see is also, it represents 4 Indian nations, and it was stolen and then used by Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know
history is deep and insidious, but I mean, I think that's important to know, right?
And my mother's Mohawk. That's how we found out about it. This is something that history has been handed down by generation. Our side of my mother's side of the family, the Indians up there were the ones that discovered the springs in Saratoga. There's a monument right now to Chief Whitehorse, who was my 5 times great-great-grandfather. But the thing was that symbol, the swastika, how they stole it and turned it around. Because the symbol was at first, yes, it was black, but what it represented the earth, the moon, the water, the fire. So if you see that symbol, the way the Germans use it, and turn it around, then you recognize this is something that most Indian nations use as coming together and honoring the Mother Earth.
Okay, so I have 2 questions that I'd like all speakers, including Cole. I know you're moderating, but you're also a panelist. So I'd like you guys to answer as we close out today. Guys and gals, sorry. As we close out today, because I know one of our panelists is not here. And Malaysia Freeman, she is on, but her camera video is off. But she is on, and I want to wish her congratulations. She graduated last Monday.
Congratulations!
Congrats!
Congratulations to all of our graduates. Graduates. Dominique just did a graduation speech, but she's also a 2020 graduate.
All right.
A lot of graduates in the room. So congratulations to all of you. Oh, we have our speaker back. I'm sorry. Yes. So Cole, I'll turn it back over to you. Welcome back. So sorry.
Fantastic. Hi, Alexi.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Disconnecting.
Alexi, can you hear us?
It says connecting to audio.
Yep. Hi, Alexi. Let me know when you can hear us. We can see you. We can see you. Hi. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? I can see you. I just can't hear you. So this is Alexi. He is the proud owner of the Alibi Bar in Harlem. And can you hear me, Alexi? Can you unmute him, Ashley? We can see you.
Yeah,
your shirt looks very nice. We just can't hear you.
Fabulous. But
I don't see him.
Okay, so it says Huddle Nan.
He's at the bottom. You have to go to the second page.
Okay.
There
you go.
There you go.
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome. How are you?
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I know how busy you are, so thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure, really.
I haven't given anybody any background, so I'll just let you tell your own story. How about that?
All right. Should I go now?
Yes, please. You look fantastic.
Oh, no. Brilliant. All right. Hi, I'm Alexi Legault, and I'm the owner of a little not known place at all in Harlem called Alibi Lounge. It's on 139th and 7th Avenue, right by Stravers Row. And well, it's been 4 years that we have had the rainbow flags floating proudly at our doors, because we are an LGBT establishment, Black owned, Black operated, and with Black staff, Black people, and we love it. So it's been 4 years. Actually, it was our anniversary last week, on Wednesday last week. Okay. And we've had our share of challenges, but it's been a wonderful adventure. And I have to say that from day one, we felt welcome, we felt supported, we felt loved by Harlem, by its entire community, especially last year when we went through the stupidity of someone who burned our flags twice. And, you know, to tell the truth, I really wasn't expecting that, but everybody rallied around us. I know. Hi, Magora. She comes to the lounge quite often, and it's always been a pleasure. We've always had a very good time. I know what kind of wine she likes, and yes, and we can't wait to continue the adventure, to stay here. Really, I couldn't tell you how happy I am to be here tonight. Really.
All right.
Oh, thank you so much. You're just perfect. I know that it was a lot for you to get here, so it means the world that you are here.
You know what we do is that we try to give back to the community that welcomed us, and this is the reason why. Actually, what I was doing, I was interviewing young people from Harlem, because if you go on our Instagram page, you'll see that we posted an ad, because we're looking to hire people. Oh, wow. Yes, so that's it's one of the main mission statement of Alibi, is that I really want this place to be more than just a bar or a club. It's, you know, to be a place that I don't know, that has its place in the community, you know, and by providing employment, I think, to really primarily people from Harlem. I'm maybe one of the rare bars that take people who don't have any experience, and I train them, and, you know, I give them a paycheck, and I try to teach them something so that, you know, they can move forward later on with a little package, you know. So that's what I was doing. I was interviewing people to eventually to hire people pretty much this week, I mean.
Excellent.
Wow. So are you a bar that's back open with COVID-19? How are you handling that?
Well, you know, it's been very challenging. We were closed for a minute. Then, to be honest, for the little story, I was on the fence. I wasn't sure that I'll come back. You know, like many other small businesses, the question was, how am I going to go through it financially, also, you know, emotionally, and all this kind of things. So the good thing is, fundraising was started on GoFundMe. That really, and I thank you so much, Gold, because I know what you did, and it really helped us. Once again, the community rallied around us, and it helped us, you know, navigating through COVID-19. For the story, I know, Colin, that we talked about it. We didn't get any federal assistance for a very long time, and then when finally we got one of them, it was a very small amount. So the fact that, you know, people of Harlem and all around the world decided to show us love and support, which actually continues until now. People walk through the doors all the time, you know, just to say, listen, we want to make sure that you stay here.
Yes.
Yes.
I said at one time, it's more than the money. I mean, the money is great, trust me. It's the validation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you work, you all know we work really, really hard. And sometimes you wonder if, I mean, I don't even have time to wonder, but sometimes you feel like, does anyone see me? You know, does anyone like me? And we're all humans. And I think that's what I loved about it. It's the fact that it seemed like, you know, people actually, yes, you like me. You really like me.
You like me, absolutely.
Yes.
To that, something from your spirit, something even from, you mentioned earlier about the flags being burned in front of the bar before. I know last year, Huddle, we marched for the Peace in the Streets March on June 1st. We joined the bishop outside to meet in front of the bar and make sure you understood that we stand with you all. We did twice. And at the end of the day, you never let those actions harden, it seems, your heart. You seem so full of love and grace. You're out here hiring people to give out jobs. So how do you stay faithful? How do you stay full of love at this time? Especially not just even speaking to just the LGBTQ fight, but as a Black man in this society, what we're going through right now with George Floyd, with Breonna Taylor. How do you get up and keep going every day as a business owner amongst COVID? How can you encourage those who are in the chat who aren't going to speak up and say that they're suffering or in pain, but they need to be encouraged? Can you speak to them real fast? I know you have to.
Very good question. I mean, really, because I like I said, you know, there are moments, you know, we're all humans. There are moments where I feel like I can't do it anymore. That's it. And also, it's not something that I like to talk about, but just before we were sent home on March 16th, I got assaulted at Alibi, actually, viciously attacked by 6 people who walked in, and you know, really, it was vicious. I was in the hospital for a few days.
What?
Yes. And then because of COVID, you know, they let them out, so they're literally. I still see some of them roaming around Alibi. So you know, those were the questions. Those were the moments where really you wonder, why am I doing this? But I think it comes from one thing, and people sometimes think it's kind of cheesy, but I think it's when you're Black, you know, when you have you're born Black, and maybe when you're on top of that, you're gay, you're born with a certain resilience. I don't know if you agree with me, but there's something that makes you, it's inside of me at least, or I think inside of all of us. It makes us just get back up, you know, because otherwise, what's the other alternative? You know, I'm in that privileged position to be able to, you know, have a mission, you know, and to try to accomplish that mission, whether it's hard or not, and it is difficult. But the feeling of giving up, or the idea of giving up, is, you know, it's just going to lead to something. I said that before. I like to be an inspiration, or at least at Alibi Lounge to be an inspiration for anyone to say, you know, I can do it. I can have my own business. I can open a nail salon. I can open a bakery. And if I fail, it's because first of all, I didn't do what I'm supposed to do, my job. And if I fail, I don't want the kid to think, well, you guess what? That's another Black man who failed. You see what I mean? Oh, it was hard, so that's why, you know, it didn't work out. I wanted to think, okay, it was hard. Not only he persevered, but then the people around us, around him, showed him love, the community. And I keep saying that, is that this is what we do. When I moved to Harlem 6 years ago, from the moment I walked out of the train station, I felt home. And I wonder why it took me so long to come home. You know, and every day of my life, I live on 138th Street. Every day of my life, I step out, and it's just that feeling. And that's why you keep going. Because you know that you're home, and no matter what happens, you know, your family is going to take care of you. Your family is going to be around you. And you want to be, and I want to give back to that family, and I want to be an inspiration for that family. I really want young people to understand that it is possible. It might be difficult, it might be challenging, but it is possible when you work hard and when you know that you're gonna, no matter what, have people in your corner. So that's really why, you're right, it's spiritual, it's something inside all of us, I want to say, that makes me at least keep going.
One thing, I'm just gonna leave this, but here's an old-fashioned home remedy. You got a bar, and like the biggest thing is, like, if you use pine sol to clean, you know, and a little bit of alcohol. That kind of takes care of what happens. Also, if you can keep a big bottle of hand sanitizer by the door. These are just, you know, little things that just offering.
I have hand sanitizers. I literally have to be alarmed. We never have too much for the gigantic bottle of hand sanitizers everywhere. We provide masks as well, gloves.
Okay.
No, we take really care. Oh, I take really care of the fact that, you know, we have to do everything we can to stop the pandemic. So no, we take care of that. We really, really take care of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Just perfect. Just perfect.
No, thank you, Cole, really. And I want to thank Cole publicly because from day one, from the moment we met, she has made sure to let me know that, you know, the Reverend Al Chapter and the whole organization was behind me. And I wish I could have more time to come, to stop by. I promise I'll do better.
I know you give what you can. I know you give what you can, and we are blessed for it.
Thank you so much, everybody. Oh God, I wish I could stay, really.
No, we know you gotta go.
Next time I'll plan around.
Take those drinks.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, so Pinnacle, I'm gonna turn it over to you in Malaysia. And Ashley, those are all the speakers that we had for tonight.
Thank you so much, Chaplain Cole.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
I don't want to
Dominique.
Thank you so much for the wonderful speakers.
Yes.
I just want to ask one last question and then we can wrap it up. What do you think is a good ally, and what are ways that allies can help to support the LGBT community?
Awesome question.
Thank you.
Reverend Kennedy, you want to take it first?
When they say ally, perhaps I'm, you know, what do you mean by that? Maybe I'm, you know, bear with me. I'm 81. Like I said, I have senior moments. What do you mean by ally? Such as, give an example, please.
A supporter of the LGBT community, such as like a family member that supports you and helps to understand what you're going through and helps to embrace what you are.
Well, I think conversation is about the biggest thing. You know, talking to people. I mean, you're not going to, like they say, when you try to save the whales, you can't save all of them. But those that you can reach and you can talk to, they understand that they can be allies and they are allies. And conversation, I think, communication is the most important thing. Because there are a lot of people out there that are for us, but then there are a lot of people also that are against us. But the thing is, communication kind of breaks it down. And then that way you find out who your allies and your friends are. I mean,
I'll jump in. I think true allyship starts with genuine relationships. A lot of times, especially now, allyship has become a performance, you know, like, so people will just be like, I'm in support, but they're not necessarily investing time and energy in cultivating genuine relationships with LGBT people. And then I think second, true allyship is, you know, using your privileges as perhaps a straight person or whatever other privileges that you might carry to create space for those people to not only feel safe, but to hopefully be able to advocate for themselves, and hopefully using your own voice to advocate for them when they're not present. But when they are present, leaving them space to be able to do it for themselves, because I think LGBT people have always had a history of standing up for ourselves, and we can do it well, but oftentimes aren't necessarily given the ground and space to do that. So those are the things that I think are important about allyship.
Great point. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Any other speakers want to answer that?
Delores,
could you rephrase the question? I'm trying to understand the question again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it exactly.
Go ahead, Pinnacle, if you want to repeat yourself. It basically, go ahead, Pinnacle.
Basically what I asked is, how can straight people, or how can people that want to help the LGBT community help them and embrace who they are and what they are? And how can we help them with challenges, and how can we help them to,
Okay, so I think I understand. I think it starts first with your family, with your mother and your father. You have to explain to your family new information that's given to you to better explain how to accept other people's who are different from ourselves. And I think that a way to do that is also to invite them to functions that maybe they normally would not be normally interested in or comfortable doing. Oh, did it go out? Oh, sorry. My camera went out for a second. So that's what I would try doing first. Start with your parents.
So as an ally, I want to attempt an answer as well, because I see there's a little bit of confusion. So an ally is just like with Black Lives Matter. If you're not Black, but you stand for Black Lives, you believe that Black Lives Matter and you fight for it, you're an ally to Black lives. So I am not gay, lesbian, bisexual, or questioning, but I believe and fight for the LGBTQ community. So I am an ally to the movement. So what I've always learned on the front lines, because when you get outside, when you protest, it's a lot of noise, it's a lot of people out there, and you get lost in the issue. And sometimes you can take over an ally's issue. So just like my father always says about families. So for instance, the Garner family, nobody is more angry than the Garner family about Eric Garner than the Garner family. Nobody is more angry about the LGBTQ fight than the LGBTQ people that it's impacting. Nobody can be angrier than about Black people's issues than Black people. So as allies, the question they were asking, how can they be a better allies? I say, make sure that you have somebody whose issue it is. Don't step on their toes. If it's their issue, make sure you know how to support them. They make sure you know how to stand, how to stand behind them. And like you said, Richard, basically conversation, communication. It starts there. It always starts there to make sure you ask those kind of questions, because sometimes these conversations are awkward. People don't know how to really speak to each other, or they get offended or feel disrespected. But communication is key as far as to understanding, and that's one of the points of Huddle, is to create more communication between intergenerational people and all types of people that stand for the same thing, which is equality and justice for all of us at the end of the day. I will be I'm gonna ask a controversial question. I know we're gonna end. And Malaysia, like I said, she's having some trouble on the phone. She's on, but you can't see her. So I'm gonna ask the last question that was in the chat. But Lorianne also asked it, if you all see it right here. How do we get the church more involved? They will be a really powerful ally, and it will be a great change from the normal persecution of the LGBTQIA community. Also, one of the questions that were sent, as far as the same similar question, sorry, I don't want to misquote it, but all our pious individuals who still bash the LGBTQ community, stuck in the past, or has the church finally accepted its members? How do we continue to mend this relationship? It's very important, because the National Action Network, we are a church-based organization. And we have a lot of ministers that's tuned in on Facebook. There's been comments said, so I wanted to address it. It's not a back and forth, because it's not a debate, but I know you're used to it, because it's way of life at this time. But how do you address that? Do you tell them to move on? How do you address it? And we can make it short, because I don't want it to become crazy in here, but I want us to tell the truth and speak truth to power. And Lorianne, you can also address it as well, and our other members in the chat. Richard, you can start, or Delores, or Cole, whoever would like to take that.
Delores.
Oh.
Yes. Me, myself, I was a member of a church in the Bronx, which is called Focus on Christ. Mm-hmm. And when Alon passed away, the church kind of secluded itself as far as talking to me in a general manner as that's just God's way, and she should have lived her truths as a man. Mm-hmm. I stopped going to the church because I feel that God knows what you're going to do before you even know, and he accepts everyone. And that's what the church has to understand. You're going to church for fellowship. You're going to church to praise God. You're not going to church for sex. You're not going to church for drugs. You're going there to hear the word and get the blessing from the church. That is what we are going to church for. Mm-hmm. And people have to take that into consideration. I'm not going to church to make friends, because once we go home, that's it. So what we're doing is learning the word of God so we can get to that place, so we can have a better understanding. It has nothing to do with sex. Church has nothing to do with sex.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And also, like on that point, one thing that is very, very important. There are churches out here that are for everybody. The reason why a lot of people feel they do. Scientifically, it has been proven. Sodom and Gomorrah was not destroyed because of homosexuality. Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because they were on a fault and it was a volcano, and that's what destroyed the city. It had nothing to do with sexuality.
Amen.
And so this is where Christian and science get bogged down. Okay, and then the other side of that, if you believe that God is love and love is for everyone, male, female, gay, straight, white, black, blue, or green, you know, and the whole thing is going back to another point, all life on this planet started in Africa, and it started out with mother, father, child. The Europeans got so they reduced the mother to the Holy Ghost. Okay, but in Ethiopian and Christianity, it's mother, father, child. So it would be God the mother, God the father, Jesus the son. And then as the years went on, you know what happened. So, you know, and one of the things that people have to understand is a lot of us feel, I know me, myself personally, I felt I was born this way. So therefore I have, you know, like, it's been like the salmon swimming upstream. You know, I know from the time that I was knee high to an ant, I was born this way. So therefore, and I know that God loved me and Goddess loves me just the way I am. And that we talk this a lot. Unity Fellowship Church of Christ was started by Bishop Bean because we needed an affirming place where we could be who we are and what we are about. And a lot of the ministries came out of that. In the Life Ministries, you know, is one of the ones that is openly for gay people and friends, whoever that feel like, you know, they want to associate. Bishop-elect Vanessa.
Come on. Thank you, Queen Mother. Yeah. Thank you for your answer. Thank you. Anthony?
Yes. Well, this is a very conflicted topic for me as a gay, openly gay man who really fully loves and embraces my sexuality and not afraid of expressing that. And then I feel that faith and the church needs to find a balance, a place where it can bridge with science and history, with religion, for it really to be compatible with each other. You know, both sides have to come together to a middle place of understanding and love. And I think that's what I like to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Richard?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think I'll just reiterate Rev Kennedy's point, which is there are so many churches that are affirming, especially now, and they're growing. I think, and also, like, gay people have always existed in every church, known to man. So, I mean, I think it's really incumbent on us to just stand up and demand respect and demand to be included, and to make sure that, you know, we're not being marginalized in these spaces that are really for worship. So I mean, I think everybody needs to just, especially gay people within these other institutions, because church is an institution, to recognize their power to be leaders in those spaces, to create community, to stand up and change hearts and minds. I think that's the reason that we can, you know, I can even stand up and say and do half the work and say the things that I'm saying is because there have been so many people that have already done that and are continuing to do that. But I do think that, like, I was a member of 1 Corinthians when I lived in Harlem. It was a very affirming space. And so and there are churches just like that and leaders like Mike Waldron who, you know, are just as affirming, and we need to focus more on those leaders and figure out how we can kind of start to use them as models for the path forward when it comes to worship.
Amen. And also salute to
and go right there.
Lorianne?
Yes, thank you. I like what Richard just said. You know, I'm a member of First Corinthians, and Pastor Mike preached an awesome sermon on Sunday, this past Sunday. If you haven't had a chance, you know, try to check it out. But yeah, because I'm always conflicted. I'm a preacher's kid. I was listening to Islam's mom.
Yes.
Now, about 20 years ago, I would have had you go talk to my mom, right? But it's a bit late now. It's a bit late now. So
Come on with it. Come on.
I'm gonna let my mom rock right now because she's 79 years old, and I have a feeling like it's just gonna not fall on.
God bless. Like, listen, my mom was 84, and she didn't really get it. She passed away this year, but once she got to the 84 age, I had to let her know, and she was comfortable with it. It took her a minute, you know, because she was born in 1935. So I kind of know how to get into there a little bit where they can accept a little
bit.
Little bit. Enough to get you by. Enough to get you by.
Well, right. Apparently, I'm still alive and I'm still living here, so I guess it's not too bad. But like seriously speaking, because and I'm not gonna pinpoint nationalities. I'm only speaking about my personal experience with people I've grown up with. But it seems to be much more difficult from church folks who definitely have like a West Indian background, where, like, for instance, if like I'm a Barbadian, if I get caught in the act in Barbados because I'm a
Barbadian.
So then you know, if you're a citizen of the country and you get caught in the act, then the U.S. can't help you. So you're subject to the rules of that country. But it's so much prejudice, as you say, prejudging, and a lot of times, like, how does anyone recommend we bridging that gap between the churches? Like, I mean, I heard what you said about associating more with open churches like First Corinthians, but those other churches, because there's more of the other churches that have powerful positions and members of the community as well as in the church that are not for it. So how do you bridge that gap? Like, I'm not saying we have to try to convince them, but how do we still, like, partner with them or promote more tolerance? And not even tolerance, like, we should be beyond being tolerated, but like, how do you?
Would you mind taking it? Oh, you go ahead, Mother Kay. I'm sorry.
What I was saying is that as we go and we have to form, you know, we're forming coalitions, we're forming Black Lives Matter. We did the same thing with the churches. As Unity Fellowship Church, if they're willing to, like, coexist or even meet with First Corinthians. There's In the Life Ministries. If these churches will come together and willing to have dialogue with these other churches like Bishop-elect Vanessa's church, you know, Bishop Holton, and these people, like, the thing is, you have to, how do you establish that? You have to come together and have conversation and open and knowing that, hey, there's First Corinthians, there's Unity Fellowship, there's In the Church Ministries, there's different churches that are affirming, and bridging that gap starts with one.
Is there any way legally we can prevent churches from doing, like, the hate speech and stuff like that about homosexuality coming across the pulpit? Because that hurts more people than anything else.
Well,
is that in Harlem in 2020? Do you still hear that?
Oh yeah, it's still there.
Yeah. I mean, speaking to your point about West Indians, because I'm Haitian, my partner's Bayesian, and he specifically wants to do a lot of work in Barbados around this issue. I'm not necessarily convinced that we need to, like, that we need to, like, remain in, can you hear me? Remain in space. I think we really have to cultivate new spaces that we can exist and affirm ourselves. And then second to that, I do think it's incumbent on us to, you know, bear the brunt of pushing the narrative forward. And so that means putting our bodies on the line, our voices on the line, and creating and demanding that space for, because I mean, I just think about the next generation coming up, and that's the only way that we've ever had progress is people who are marginalized decide to no longer tolerate that marginalization and put themselves forward. And so, I mean, I do believe that we should, you know, hold people accountable, and we certainly should try to continue conversations, but I think creating affirming spaces, there's nothing quite like that, and it doesn't need to be 1,000-person church. Like, it can change someone's life to be part of a 10-person group where they feel affirmed.
Right, that's a fact.
And then also the things that when people want to beat you over the head with the Bible, you know, is to
always coming from Leviticus. You know how that goes. Be like Leviticus chapter. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but when they want to beat you over the head, you know, you go to the fact that science proves that Sodom and Gomorrah was not destroyed because of homosexuality, but because of volcano, and they were on a fault. Next thing is a love story in the Bible about David and Jonathan, Naomi and Ruth. Okay, in the New Testament, there is a story about oh Jesus, I can't.
Reverend, we are
traveling
we're over
with
time, and Ashley is shooting me with daggers, so way over time. No, it's been a beautiful.
We have to have a follow up.
That's up to Ashley and Dominique.
I just want the Zoom to close on
We have
'cause we're
3
over
minutes.
time, so I just didn't want it to close out while people were talking. But I think we have it closes at 9:20, so we have 8 minutes.
Okay. So I'll just say thank you to all of our amazing guest speakers. It was more than more than I could have asked for, and on such short notice, I really appreciate it. Ashley, Dominique, thank you very much for inviting us. And Pinnacle and Malaysia, you all are fantastic, and Malaysia, congratulations on your graduation. You're gonna be down at Clark, Atlanta, and we are so proud of you. I don't even know if she's still here, but pass that along to her, please. And Delores Nettles, Richard Brookshire, Reverend Kennedy, Anthony Dulce, and Daniel, thank you.
And Nicole Knapper for your amazing leadership. Always, not just tonight, but constantly. Thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Conversation. I wish we can go all night long. We definitely have a part 2 and continue.
Yay!
Yes.
Happy Pride to everyone.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Also Gun Violence Awareness Month, and as we said in the beginning of the conversation, we're preparing to go out to DC, August 28th, like Mother Kennedy said. All of us are going out there together to voice our voices nationally as one group all together. And I'm not in charge of the program, so I can't give that answer, but I definitely will take all your questions and concerns to the leadership at the top. Reverend Sharpton always sends his cigars. He's probably watching right now, telling us to get off. But at the end of the day, I'd like to say thank you and much love to all of us, all of the speakers. Love is love, no hate at all. All Black Lives Matter. But I also would like to end this with a prayer from Patrice Perry, our crisis liaison for NAN Youth Huddle. Patrice?
Yay!
Oh wait, I'm sorry. And Pinnacle also had closing thoughts. So Pinnacle, you can speak for yourself. Please close us out, and then Patrice, you can close us out in prayer. We have 6 minutes.
We'll be back next Monday, same time, 7 o'clock. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we support our LGBT community, and we support our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, and we want to make sure that you guys are included in the conversation, and we want to make sure that your issues are heard and that you're not cast aside, and that we're here to support you as allies, and that we love you, and happy Pride.
Let us pray.
Yes.
Most gracious and wise God, we first come to tell you thank you for this day. God, thank you for this conversation that many years ago, many people would not even be able to have. So we thank you in advance. We thank you for every young person that was on this call tonight, God, that was encouraged to be themselves, to love themselves, to be the best of themselves. God, we ask you and we pray and we ask you to cover the LGBT community, God. Continue to be with them. Continue to shine upon them. God, continue to give them the desires of your heart. Everyone is not going to accept them, but the most thing that we know, God, is that you are love. And we know that you love everyone. No one is exempt to you. So God, for that, we tell you thank you. Cover our leaders in this world. Cover the leaders in National Action Network. And God, we just all tell you thank you and amen. God bless.
Thank you so
Amen.
much.
Amen. Ashe. Amen. Go right there.
Full conversation on National Action Network's Facebook, and it will also be up on the website at nationalactionnetwork.net, the full conversation. Thank you again so much for your time on this Monday evening. Thank you for huddling up for change.
We're talking, getting people to.
Thank you, Ashley, for the huddle.
Get on the bus.
Thank you.
Yeah, get on the bus. You can call Patrice Perry. You can also call the House of Justice.
Thank you.
Yes. And all the
Thank you, Bo.
Thank you,
Good night,
Annie.
everyone.
Dominique.
Good
Thank you, Damo.
Better word.
Congratulations, Dominique.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, David.
Good night.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you, Lorianne.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Don't
Bye,
forget
Ashley.
my birthday, y'all.
Thank you. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Register 828.
Yes. And register. Thank you.
Yeah, we're already registered, but and also I don't know who I need to speak to, but I would like to speak at the brunch.
Yeah, I told you I was related, but that's not on me.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
I got the request in.
Thank
I
you.
got the request in, Reverend Kennedy.
Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
Love you.